Broadcasting the information the mainstream media won't touch. This is The Richie Allen Show in association with DavidIke.com.
My first guest tonight is an author, she's a journalist, and she hosts the terrific National Safe Child Show. It's a radio and television show that's associated with the National Safe Child Coalition. I'm delighted that she's agreed to talk to us about what is, as far as I'm concerned, and I've been saying this now for 2 years, one of the most important issues facing us today. Welcome to the programme, Tammi Stefano. Tammi, lovely to chat with you. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much, Richie, for having me on and for taking such a stand with these issues. It's really necessary for so many people to be privy to what's really happening with the safety of children, or the lack of, I should say.
You know what, Tammi, up until about 15, 16 months ago, apart from my friend David Ike telling me that this was going on, I didn't appreciate the scale of it. And then I got in touch with a lady called Emma Ibbitson, who made a world-class film called Traffic about child forced adoption in Britain, where mums and dads who didn't put a foot wrong had their child taken for no good reason. I spoke with people like Ian Josephs. I read the British author Christopher Booker, and I found out, Tammi, that 25,000 children a year are sent into foster care and adoption, and many thousands of those for no good reason. So, of course, I had no reason to doubt that you're experiencing this phenomenon in the United States as well. Tell us a little bit about how you came to understand this was going on, Tammi, and what motivated you to do the great work that you're doing.
Well, I got involved because of a case that was taken to me ultimately. I've been involved on and off for years, for well over 20 years, and have seen some horrors. But you almost think when you see these horrors that they are anomalies. I never realized or took the time to really seek out the numbers of children that are really mistreated by a system that is only established to protect them, that they are stolen from parents. And when I came to realize this about a little over 4 years ago, that's when I decided just to devote my time to really taking a closer look and bringing awareness to this. And the more that I looked, the more horrific the facts were clear. We're living in a very, very scary time. And it isn't, although I predominantly look at cases in the U.S., I have been sent several cases from the U.K., parents who are afraid for their lives, parents who have been taken and beaten, and then had their children adopted. And they were beaten, I was told anyway, by the parent because they were becoming vocal about what was happening within the Child Protective Service agencies.
I just got to mention this, Tammi. Tammi, we've got Tammi Stefano on the programme. Tammi, you've got to mention this. It's an amazing coincidence you talking to me today, Tammi, because Sky News, which is a sister station of Fox News, ran a report today about child trafficking in the United States. And during the report, a woman who works for Child Protective Services actually spoke to a Sky News presenter about the need to tackle this at the various, what she was talking about was, she was talking about tackling, rescuing children at the very earliest opportunity. So what she was basically saying was, these young women whom are out on the streets prostituting themselves to earn money, they've come from very bad families. This is what she was saying. So she was saying, what we need to do now is, we need to identify crack moms. And when we identify a mom is in labour in a hospital and she's addicted to crack, we need to take that baby immediately. Tammi, I nearly fell off my chair watching that report. Whatever happened to, we need to help the mother overcome her addiction to crack so that she can be a good mother for her parent. We need to help her out. How did it get to the stage, well, we need to take that child away straight away?
Wow, that's a great story, and it's a great point of view, and it is what the general public sees is they see bad parents. And what the mainstream media covers is they take these cases of drug-addicted parents, and they exploit them so that the general public is really seeing, my gosh, there are so many bad parents out there, and thank God these children are saved. What they don't realize is exactly what you just said. The system is doing absolutely nothing to help the parents. And in fact, we have a group right now that is working on trying to collect some data on the numerous multitude of cases where the parents they weren't only safe, they were professionals, they had great homes, stable homes. The children were often in private schools. And when the system was done with these parents, through the lies, through the deceit, through the separation of their children, Richie, they were exactly what the system alleged them to be. They did start using drugs. They did start drinking. But the lies at the onset of the case, of them using drugs, of them being a danger to their children, of them, of the children failing to thrive within the households, they were allegations that couldn't be more far from the truth. They were the furthest thing from the truth. But when they're done with the parents are broken, and that's what the mainstream media, it seems, is really exploiting.
It won't report on it. Can I ask you this, Tammi? This is so important. What we see in the United Kingdom, in England, in Wales, in Scotland, Northern Ireland, we see a social worker or a child protection officer will go in and will interfere in family life, and they will say, we think you're not in a good position at the moment to raise your child, so we want to intervene. What they do next is really, really startling to me. They then go to a judge in the family courts and they make an order, they make a recommendation to the judge that social services takes the child away from the mother. What's extraordinary about this, Tammi, is the parent never gets to see the accusations made about him or about her by the social worker. So the judge sees all of this. They get the information from, Child Protective Services. They then make a decision, well, that child, for its own good, needs to come out of that family. But God loved the family, Tammi. They don't get to see what was said about them. They don't get to challenge it. And worst of all, these family courts in England are all held in secret. And if anybody says anything, they'll be held in contempt of court. This is like something from... This is Nazism, this. I never thought we'd see. Now, can you describe, is that the way it is in the United States? Is it pretty much the same system?
I truly believe that every country that we see these failed actions for the parents to be able to parent their children, it is a patterned situation that each country's Child Protective Services agency is abiding by. It's identical in the U.S., Richie. Identical. It's all secret. Even the extended families that attend these court hearings with their family members, the parents, they are not allowed to actually enter into the courtroom. So whatever is said in the courtroom, when the parents come out and the players, attorneys, guardian ad litems, or whomever else comes out of that courtroom, it really becomes one person's word against the other, and the parent is always discredited for being a liar.
By the Child Protective Services. So when a judge hears from somebody who is a social worker, and that person tells the judge, the mother did this, or she might do this, and of course, I was horrified to learn, Tammi, that in so many cases in the United Kingdom, a child is taken away from its mother for something the mother might do in the future. This is staggering to me. Mary suffered from post-traumatic stress disorder. She had a very difficult first pregnancy, and after that, she had severe postnatal depression. Therefore, we think the child is better off, for the time being anyway, in foster care. When I learned this, I thought it was crazy conspiracy theory. I didn't believe we lived in a world where people could do that until I began to see that in England anyway, it's a billion pound a year industry. Money's got a lot to do with this, eh?
And, you say in England it's a £1 billion per year industry, but that's only, that £1 billion is only what the people are able to see. There are so many branches that are hidden, Richie, that for somebody to look at those figures, that money, those financials, they would see a lot more than that, I can assure you, because what is cited in the U.S., which is billions, doesn't even touch as to how far the money really goes. But it's put in these places that you really, the average person who's investigating is not going to look, because it doesn't seem to appear that one has to do with the other. The government right now, it appears from the research and the investigations that I've done, has found a way to avoid the transparency for the public's eye, for the taxpayer's eye, and collect money in the billions and keep everything hidden under this umbrella, this cloak of confidentiality, because they don't want to harm the children. They have social workers, as you've just cited, that go in, that make these reports. What's very interesting is these social workers, when you begin to look at their background, they have no medical background, most of them. They have no degrees to be able to diagnose anybody.
That's brilliant, that you're saying that. These people are not psychologists, they're not psychiatrists, they've got minimal training.
Minimal. Here in the U.S., many of the social workers have nothing more than a high school education.
Now, tell me this, Tammi. Tell me this. Sorry to interrupt you there, but I've got to ask you this.
That's okay.
We've heard here that, now, I've never seen any definitive proof of this, but I'm sure some of our listeners will tweet me a link. But we've heard here that in some cases, the social workers, that they get a bonus, basically, because it's worth £500 a week to a foster mom. If you're a foster mom, each child, Tammi, is worth about $700, $750 a week to you. The placement agencies that place the children, they earn millions. They're listed companies, they earn so much money. So we've heard that the social worker who initially says, you're not a good mother, you're a danger to your child, we've heard that they've been getting bonuses. Has that come up at all in the US? Did they get bonuses?
Yes, it has come up in the US. And we have many social workers who are whistleblowers. They cannot confirm that. And I haven't been able to. So although I've heard it, and it may very well be true, I just haven't been able to confirm it yet. And I want to stick with the facts that I have been able to confirm, so that our credibility, stays very, very high on that scale, because they're looking for a reason to debunk anything that we say. And we don't want to give them that. So we really want to come at them very factually, documented proof, families with documentation or transcripts or reports that we do have our hands on.
Can I ask you this, Tammi? Have you any idea at all the numbers? What sort of numbers? Listeners are asking me this. I know it's difficult, but listeners are pressing me to ask you this. What sorts of numbers of children are currently away from their families and are in care at the moment in the US? Is there any idea of the numbers?
Well, we have some sites that do give numbers of the current foster care children. I know for a fact that these are incorrect numbers. I know for a fact because I have been given some documentation from one state in particular, and I don't mind saying the state, it's the state of Louisiana, in which the government entity gave a number for public record, and then a whistleblower gave me another sheet these two numbers did not add up. So what we have come to discover, and I do have factual proof of this, is the numbers that they give the general public is one figure, and the numbers that they give for their funding, the money incentivized number, is another figure, because the higher that number, the more money that they are able to procure from the government and justify.
That's incredible, that.
Yes.
Because that's corruption. That's corruption on a massive scale, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. And the sad part is the numbers that we see as far as children or substantiated abuses is so far off as well. Because in the United States, and this is incredulous, in the United States, the Justice Department and our government, the numbers that they allow the general public and that they give to the general public are numbers that are collected from who? From Child Protective Services.
The conflict of interest is staggering, Tammi.
Exactly. We will not have any true numbers because we see the systemic problem clearly in every state. And then it's that very entity that is providing numbers to the higher government to then give those numbers to the general public. The whole system has failed.
Let me ask you this. This is really important now. It's 20 minutes to the top of the hour. Tammi, Stefano is on the line. I'm going to give you out the details for where you can find Tammi. I'll do that right now. And then we've got a very important question. And it's about how to avoid coming into contact with these people. And Tammi can be found at the National Safe Child Coalition, the NSCC. I'm going to tweet a link out to that website now. And I want you to go on there. And there are links on there as well to the National Safe Child Show. It's a massive topic, this. It certainly deserves the sort of coverage that Tammi and her colleagues are giving it. Tammi, we talk to mums on this programme who are going through this, who don't know where their daughter or son is. They did nothing wrong, nothing to deserve having the state take their child away from them. They're absolutely distraught. They are, I mean, you've met these women. You know exactly how they are and how they're feeling. I'm a man. I'll probably never understand it. Much as I love children, I love people. I'll never understand what it's like for a mother, something like that to happen. How do you avoid these people? I've heard English girls say, the biggest mistake I made, Tammi, was I left them in through the front door. How do you stop these people? What do you do when they make first contact with you?
Okay, well, first, I want to address one very, very important topic. Richie, I would like for you to please send out on your Twitter the Medical Kidnap website, medicalkidnap.com. They are really pioneers in exposing this. They have the medicalkidnap.com site, and there are thousands of stories of these families who have their children removed with false allegations. Okay?
I've just tweeted that this second. It's out there now. Folks, get onto this website and have a look. I'll do it again before we finish, yeah.
Yes, please do. And they've just released a book in which I'm very honored to have assisted with, as well as some fabulous journalists out there. And it's the Medical Kidnap book. I will send you off a link. It is really important, if people don't understand this, that they just read this book. You can get it on Amazon. It will explain everything, and this is factual. And so many cases have been won because this group has exploited the truth, not the false statements, not what's being said in the courtroom, but the truth, factually based on documents.
Medicalkidnap.com, folks, and I will tweet out a link to the book as well. What do you know about, we've had this in Britain as well, when a mother finds out that her partner, the father of her child, or her boyfriend has been abusing her children, and she makes, as any good mother would do, reports it and makes a complaint to protect her child. We're hearing horror stories, Tammi, about how that ends up with the child being taken away and the mother doesn't get to see the child again. What's that all about?
Well, the best that I can tell you is and it's going to sound conspiratorial because there's 0% of any reasonable explanation. I've had hundreds, nearing 1,000, maybe more, cases where the child has been sexually abused, and this sexual abuse has been substantiated. I'm talking about 4-year-olds with gonorrhea, chlamydia, sexually transmitted diseases that cannot be said to be something other than sexual abuse. The perpetrator that the child has identified as the abuser, okay, that child has been placed in the care and custody solely of the abuser. What my personal thoughts are is this world, this country specifically, because this is really the country I focused on, is trying to create a generation of robotic type minds. And it sounds crazy. I realize that.
Why do you think that I would think that's crazy? I make programs with and for David Icke here in Britain. David has been writing about this for years. What you're saying, Tammi, and it sounds to me like you spend a lot of time scratching your head saying, I cannot believe, Tammi, that I'm actually saying this out loud. Because that's what happens to us, you see. Because when you remove every other possibility, what you're left with, however, as you know the old saying goes, however unlikely, must be what it's about. David would say that there's been an attempt, and there has been an ongoing agenda here, to also normalise sexual abuse. To normalise it.
To normalise it, here, there are some bills that are hidden, that haven't been made to the public, that they are trying to do that very thing. That sexual, it's that Freudian concept before Freud changed his direction. It is, to sexually stimulate a child is to encourage this child to be more open in their latter years of life. And I think about it this way. In our educational system right now, they have blamed the budget crisis as a means to remove art and music. What happens to children when they stop being able to have their creative juices flowing? They become more robotic.
Oh, Dave, I tell you, Tammi, David Icke is going to love listening to this. Something he's been saying for years and years. Are you a mother, Tammi?
Am I an author?
No, are you a mother?
Am I a mother?
A mother? No, a mom. Are you a mom?
I'm a mother. Yes, of course, I'm a mother. Are you kidding? I'm a mother, and I feel like I'm a mother to so many of these families that I come to love their children. Of course, yes, I'm a physical mother, and I feel like I'm a surrogate mom to many of these families because I fall in love with these families. My heart bleeds for them. I see what they're going through, and this is the most unjust, evil thing that can happen to any family.
It's evil, Tammi.
It's evil. There's nothing
evil.
else to say. I mean, parents that are good, they're fighting. Do you know how many parents have taken their lives? They've committed suicide because they give up hope of ever being able to be in their children's lives again, and that was their sole purpose for living. They've killed themselves. Good people.
You being a mother yourself, you being a mom, you will have imagined when you've met some of these mothers and they've left you and they've told you their story, they've gone away, and you, Tammi, have thought, what if that was my child now when he or she was born? And that must absolutely break your heart.
It breaks my heart. But I will tell you this, just to answer a question you asked a little while ago. In the UK, I'm not certain about all of the laws or many of the laws, but in the United States, I encourage people, do not let Child Protective Services into your home.
Yeah.
Do not open that door. If they want to see your child, let them see your child through a screen door. Force them to stand outside, record everything. I encourage every parent, I don't care if you've never been involved in the system, get an audio and a video recorder and keep it in your home. And when somebody comes to your door, alleging that they are the police or child protective services, put the recorder somewhere that can record everything, because you will not be believed. These parents are not believed. They're discredited. They are labeled with a bunch of things that are not true. And these children...
yeah.
Sure, ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, don't be sorry, and I hate to interrupt you. I just got to ask you this, because I know time is going to run out now in about 5 or 6 minutes.
Yes.
Are you aware, and you might be and you might not be, but of course you're in the US, that coming into effect this year in Scotland is something called the Named Person Act. And what that is, the Scottish government, the devolved Scottish government, because of course Britain is governed from London, but Scotland has devolution, it governs itself. They've introduced legislation where Scotland will appoint a named person to look after the interests of every child. Every single child in Scotland will have a named person. That person might be a doctor, it might be a teacher, it might be a local police person, and that person will liaise between your family and the state, and will effectively be in the position of spying on you and how you're raising your child and what you're doing. This is unbelievable, Tammi. And it's coming in Scotland. It's not conspiracy theory. They want to assign a named person to track the welfare of each child. It is insane. Insane. And it's happening.
It's insane. It is absolutely insane. And, I was not privy to this direction in Scotland, but I'm not at all shocked by it. It is being attempted here in the U.S. And really, if we look at it in a larger scope, they are already doing that. And the question that every person in the world that is privy to this has to understand is anybody that is given this type of power to, with their hand on the button, to be able to push and make decisions as to the health, safety, and welfare of your child without ever meeting you or your family or your children. They will take that power and they will use that power even if they go in being good. I've seen people that go in that are decent people and they come out as dirty as hell, excuse the expression. That power for any one person is just, it's not a healthy thing. I think human beings, we need oversight, and we need oversight of oversight. We need transparency, and we need panels. I mean, look at Dr. Wayne Squire that was just removed. I believe that she was removed because she disagreed with following, playing in that dirty sandbox, if you will, with the other players that were going in one direction. And shame on that panel, shame on them for doing what they've done to her. There's a social worker whistleblower. I don't know if you're to it. I haven't looked into it a whole bunch. Carol Woods.
Yes, Carol. Yeah, she a Manchester-based woman.
Yes.
Who went public recently to talk about her experiences working in the social services. Yeah.
Well, she is saying a story that has come to me that is identical. I mean, you change Carol's name to the whistleblower social workers that I have interviewed, and the story is identical. They are told to change reports. I have a story right now and we're getting ready to go to court for it. This poor mom is fighting for her children. She was an alcoholic. She's been clean and sober for 6 years. Listen, alcoholism is rampant, okay? But when a parent says, listen, I want help, and they choose to help themselves, how dare we as a people not support that person and help that person instead of spending all of this money in these covert proceedings? Why don't we take a small fraction of it and actually build our communities to be strong?
Absolutely.
To be support-based, have people more involved. I have a social worker that just came to me that said, I will not participate. They've asked me to change this report. Why? Because the foster parent's father foster parent's father is a bigwig in social services, and this foster parent has fallen in love with this mother's child. So you need to change the report social worker because she wants to adopt the child. And when the social worker said, I will not participate, this mother has been jumping through hoops for a year and a half, and she has complied with everything. I cannot be a part of that. They removed this social worker from the case. They often will remove the social workers who will not be participants. If the social worker vocalizes what they've asked, they are then terminated. They are intimidated, and there have been social workers that have lost their lives.
You think that? I mean, we understand they're gagged. They're not allowed to speak about what they do and whom they've met. They face severe penalties. And you think that you believe that there's at least anecdotal evidence, Tammi, that some of these social workers who have found their conscience may very well have been bumped off.
Absolutely. I worked with an investigative journalist. His name is Martin Burns. The Washington Post covered his death. He was an avid hiker, August 25th, 2013. He was hiking. I spoke with him that morning. I was going to go with him. Thank God I didn't. He fell off of the cliff, an avid hiker. He was covering topics that were going to expose this situation, exposing names, no different than Nancy Schaefer, the senator, two-term senator here in the U.S., who was exposing and took her own money to do a 4-year documentary to name judges, attorneys, social workers, minors attorneys, and the like, psychologists, doctors. She had the names. She was going forward with it. And it was said that it was a homicide-suicide. Her husband shot her, then killed himself. This was a successful family. There was no domestic violence. They had 5 children, healthy. This was a murder, and it has been put out there. There's not been any investigations that have been worthy of what she was willing to do. If you look on YouTube at what she was exposing, it is phenomenal, and it's not just here in the States. Her word would be for the UK. It would be for Australia. It would be for India. The children are taken. Another thing that's important, when you mentioned traffic early on, trafficking children, the children in the U.S. that are put into the system that go missing, they are not reported. They are not reported as missing, Nor do the social workers that are on these cases have to report them as missing. Now, you take a parent who has their child in custody, and if they don't report that child is missing within a certain amount of time, they are criminally charged for failure, for neglect of that child. But the same standards are not applicable to Child Protective Services. You take the thousands of children that are missing. And we had a trafficking bust a couple of years ago in one small community. I think it was 111 people were found. 65% of those people were minors in the system that were never reported missing. Never reported missing.
That's incredible.
It's a trafficking industry. So on top of the government grants that are being procured, that taxpaying dollars are paying for, you now have a whole other billion-dollar industry, and that is children being sold for profit, trafficked. There was one case in particular where a 10-year-old was trafficked to 75 Johns in one day. 75 people.
A 10-year-old child.
A 10-year-old child in one day.
I tell you what, Tammi, the evil is unfathomable. You can't get to the bottom of the evil. And at the beginning of the program, I was talking about, how people within the mainstream media will fool themselves and will sleep easy at night by telling themselves that this is all about corruption and it's just about money and nothing else, and that, we can vote out these guys and then we'll vote in new guys and the new guys will do a better job. It's an absolute crock. We've just about got to leave it for today. I want to mention the website that Tammi mentioned already. It's medicalkidnap.com. That's medicalkidnap.com. Do get on there and spend some time there. Also check out the National Safe Child Coalition, NSCC. I've already tweeted out a link to that there as well. Tammi, I want to connect you with Emma Ibbitson, the campaigner and the producer of the unbelievably brilliant film Traffic. Terrible film to watch, but brilliantly made, about child adoption, forced adoption here in England. She's somebody you should know and get to know, because networking and getting this sort of information to people around the world, two great women. I think you'll get on really well with her. I want to thank you for coming on and talking to us about this. It's horrible, but I'm going to keep doing it. I want to keep doing it because it's horrible to listen to this. It's dreadful. It's not entertaining radio, this. It isn't, but this is going on in your town, people. They're taking children from people. Tammi, I'll give you the last word. You go ahead.
Thank you so much. I want everybody, please, to look at this book, okay? It is so important. Medical kidnapping, a threat to every family in America. My site actually has been changed to National Safe Child, without the coalition, nationalsafechild.com. Both sites are okay, but nationalsafechild.com. And we haven't even touched the surface of the children that are being taken, that are being genetically tested, that are being diagnosed with these false diagnoses as a means for the system to hold on to these children, adopt them out, foster them out, sell them, many times kill them, and we don't hear about it. I can tell you this, in an 18-month period, we found 571 children died that were taken away from parents that were deemed to be abused, only to die in the very system called Child Protective Services that was supposed to protect them. In an 18-month period, 571 children died. There's so much more to discuss. I thank you so much for having me on. Medicalkidnap.com, nationalsafechild.com. We are working, collaborating together. There are other good organizations out there, but it seems that we're no nonsense like you. We're not going to smokescreen for the sake of listeners or a larger audience.
Absolutely.
This is an important topic, and if people choose to not look, just know this, everybody. You're sitting comfortably with your families right now saying it's not possible. You could be next. I promise you. I've got a doctor here that was with NBC getting ready to sign a contract for Dr. Mom of the Year. She has lost 4 of her children. She's a celebrity figure, okay? Never
can
had
happen to anybody.
It can happen to anybody. Please know that, and listen to these shows. They're telling you the truth. I thank you so much, and I honor your show. I really do. Thank you.
Tammi, not at all. Take care of yourself. Stay in touch with us and come back again soon. Lovely to chat with you. Tammi Stefano on the line to us there.